This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Gatorade Zero, the #1 proven electrolyte blend, made with zero sugar. Designed to hydrate better than water so you can lose more sweat and push more limits. Gatorade Zero, is it in you?
This is your letting the corn sweat terrorists win leader fan radio network.
Here we go.
And KFAN.com. 1 minute and 57 seconds past the hour of 3 o'clock Central Daylight Time. We welcome you back to a Tuesday edition of the Bumper to Bumper program on an extremely sweaty Tuesday afternoon here in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. My name is Dan Barreiro. I am the host of the program. Guardsy out today, Dateline Vegas for Big Ten Media Days, so he'll be off today. And I believe tomorrow he will rejoin the program when we originate from the KFAN exclusive perch, TCO Performance Center, outside the practice fields, I should say, as the Vikings sweat and toil and labor and begin their preparation for the 2025 National Football League season. Brett Blakemore is in that chair, and he will be in that chair again tomorrow as well. We are delighted that you chose to join us today. We'll give you a very deep and distinguished, and I think varied bumper-to-bumper guest lineup in just a couple of minutes. But this is another one of those days where I can't tell you that I anticipated starting the program by talking about something called corn sweat. Are you familiar with corn sweat, Brett Blakemore?
I'm not. That's what we just call detasseling when you're out in the fields in Iowa.
The same thing?
Yeah.
So we'll agree it's hot today, correct? We'll agree it is moist today. We will agree that the dew point is tropical today. My sources say a significant section of the great state of Minnesota is under what is called in the business a heat advisory until, I think about 8 o'clock tonight. But I thought tomorrow was supposed to be hot too. Regardless, we come to find out, if you are a subscriber to or occasionally read StarTribune.com, that it's not just that this time of year, it's July 22. There's a good chance it's going to be hot, and even a decent chance it is going to be muggy, going to be moist and humid. We now come to find out we can blame it, or at least in part, on the corn sweat. Yes, the corn sweat terrorists are upon us. I'm not sure, though, what we're supposed to do with this information, but I will pass it along to you as it has been offered up. Corn sweat refers to evapotranspiration. Evapotranspiration, the process by which corn absorbs water from the ground and releases it into the air. That added condensation, StarTribune.com suggests, is likely one factor contributing to the hot, humid weather coming in some parts of Minnesota on Tuesday and Wednesday. So if you play this out, if we had fewer corn crops, by definition, would today be comfortably dry? Not sure. They note in the piece that it's only part of the reason for this week's hot and humid weather. They acknowledge, does Kenny Blumenfield, senior climatologist for the Minnesota DNR, that and I don't think this is breaking any new ground. I don't think this is Lindbergh baby material. If the air is blowing off of the Gulf, we're going to be humid. If it's sunny locally, you're going to have a lot of evapotranspiration or additional humidity coming off the plants. Corn sweat effect is largely limited, that's the good news, to the peak growing season, which usually happens during the height of the summer from mid-July to mid-August. It's offered up in this piece. And the effect can be particularly noticeable in states like Minnesota, where corn, did you know corn is a water-intensive plant? I didn't know that. Did you? I haven't given corn that much thought, to be honest with you.
You would think I would.
I grew up in a state where, Indiana, all kinds of corn. I mean, I remember passing it, up and down, going up and down the state of Indiana, Indianapolis, going up through Gary. All kinds of corn could be seen. You were about to say, I'd interrupted you. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just about to say, I grew up probably within eyesight of corn, and I've never known it's a water-intensive plant.
Did you, here's my question to the corn sweat terrorists. Can you see, if you study the corn plant this time of year, can you see the perspiration on the corn itself, on the plant itself, like you can on us? Does it show up? Is there a sheen, a sweaty sheen associated with the corn sweat? Tends to all kind of peak at the heart of the growing season, says our same senior climatologist from the Minnesota DNR. And by the way, in Minnesota, this is the most abundant crop by far. I didn't know that either. The leaves are large, and so they're all collectively pulling as much moisture as they can out of the ground, using that water for their own plant physiological purposes, and then transmitting the rest of it into the atmosphere. However, and here's an important Ron Rosenbaum but. Corn is not the only plant contributing to the humidity. You get a lot more from corn, but our trees are doing it. Our tall grasses are doing it. Our lawn grasses, turf grasses are doing it. Bushes are doing it. Which, again, begs the question, what are we supposed to do with this? Other than presumably be terrorized by it. Can't get rid of all the plants, right? Can't get rid of all the bushes. Can't get rid of all the tall grasses, the lawn grasses, the turf grasses. So I'm not exactly sure what we're supposed to do with this information other than, I think, be terrified by it. It's the only reason, I think, to bring it up. What's the point? Still, the hot topic phenomenon can add about 5 to 10 degrees to the dew point, a measure of the amount of moisture in the air, Blumenfeld said. Dew points in the upper 60s are uncomfortable, the fan has learned. Another Lindbergh baby declaration. And those that reach into the 70s can be downright tropical and oppressive. On Tuesday and Wednesday in some parts of Minnesota, the dew point could stretch as high as the mid-70s. A high dew point can make hot temperatures even hotter. That moisture literally contains a kind of heat. So that's why we say, oh, it's not the heat, it's the humidity that you're feeling. Given the hot, muggy conditions, here's your money paragraph. It's what you've been waiting for, because you're too stupid to know any better. Given the hot, muggy conditions, Minnesotans can stay safe by, wait for it, keeping hydrated. 2, checking on vulnerable friends and family members. And 3, seeking shelter and shade, particularly during the hottest parts of the day. You knew somewhere that paragraph, that obligatory paragraph, which you see during on a day like this, every single local newscast that exists. I think it may even be a union deal where a clause of some sort indicating stay hydrated, check on friends, seek shelter and shade, has to be included because they think we're idiots. They think we're too stupid. None of that would ever have occurred to us because it's never been mentioned before. So I say respectfully to the farmers, to the corn farmers, do you feel any responsibility, any remorse for the discomfort that you leave the rest of us with, according to this story, on the basis of all your damned corn sweating and sweating profusely and having the impact that apparently it does on the weather in late July in Minnesota. The Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line is open. Oh, the signs are all down because we're working on this other wall. I think isn't it 64686? 64686. If you'd like to get in on this controversy. First time I think we've ever had to refer to or spend time on the corn sweat terrorists. Because as I say again, it's interesting, I guess. Not the first time I've heard the term, but I'm not sure the purpose that it serves. I'm not sure as what the hell we're supposed to do with it. It's actions, they say, have consequences. Every little thing that is part of the culture has some impact, I guess you could say, on one thing or another. Sometimes weather, sometimes climate, sometimes other things, sometimes quality of life. So I don't know what we do with this. I don't know if it's meant to make the farmers feel guilty. The corn farmers, maybe you change crops. Or can we be as certain as this particular weather guy offers that that's what this is necessarily all about? Because I don't think anybody suggesting we eradicate the crops. There's importance to those crops, right? And is it possible they actually do other things that are helpful to the environment? I don't know. We'll listen to some other corn sweat experts or perhaps other corn sweat terrorists as well. Good texts are coming in. And I'm going to get to some of them here presently. We have an early guest today, though. That's why I want to stay on schedule from a break standpoint. Kevin Seifert is going to join us with training camp now beginning. And, of course, later in the week, it gets really, really serious. Lots to catch up with Seifert today. Two other outstanding guests. We'll give you details on that in a minute. But let's start with some think about winning some bonus bucks, what you might be able to do to alleviate the corn sweat problem. But go ahead.
I wasn't sure how to do this read and how to read the words, but thankfully a newspaper article told me how to do it. So I think we can get through it. The Fan and BigDeck.com want to give you a shot to win bonus bucks with the National Cash Contest. Head to KFAN.com. The keyword is bonus for this hour. Keyword bonus, KFAN.com. Keyword
Gatorade Zero, the #1 proven electrolyte blend, made with zero sugar. Designed to hydrate better than water so you can lose more sweat and push more limits. Gatorade Zero. Is it in you?
bonus.
You're listening to The Fan.
Mall of America's mystery cards are back, and we're bringing them to you all summer long. Come grab yours at KFAN events throughout the summer, wherever you see the KFAN street team. Then make sure to redeem them at Mall of America for fun prizes and big discounts. Full list of events, KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Well, it's time. As we said, the abyss is over. Vikings training camp is getting cranked up this week. Gets really serious, I think, tomorrow. We'll be out there on Thursday for sure. And Kevin Seifert's out there pretty much every day. He covers the Vikings for ESPN and ESPN.com and joins us weekly as well. He joins us via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. Are you familiar? You've been here. How long have you been in Minnesota now?
Heading into year 26.
Oh, that's significant. That's still not one of us material, but it's significant. That's a quarter of a century.
Yes.
Are you aware of the affliction, if you want to call it an affliction, called corn sweat?
No.
I think I'd heard the term before since I've moved here, but I was reminded today via our former newspaper, thestartribune.com, that apparently corn sweat has a great, like today, does it feel muggy outside to you?
Very much so. I'm glad there was no Vikings practice today, just press
tough day. Okay. Well, apparently we can attribute some of the dew points, some of the oppressive humidity, not just to it's July and, Gulf, Gulf winds come our direction, and that's where it usually gets kind of warm up here this time of year. Apparently, as the corn matures, it becomes sweatier and sweatier, and it adds to our dew point affliction on a day like today. Corn sweat.
I'm not buying it. I'm calling BS on that one. I grew up in Virginia, which is much more humid than Minnesota.
True. Yeah.
And I don't know if they grow any corn there. It's all tobacco.
You're not sure?
It sounds a lot like the another kind of sweat that I don't even know if I can say the full name of it on radio during the day.
Right.
But let's just say it's what some quarterbacks and centers blame for slippery footballs that lead to a fumble in it during the snap exchange, which is also very unlikely to be a factor in the said fumble, but it is often discussed behind the scenes.
You might have a lot to learn here. Corn sweat refers to evapotranspiration, the process by which corn absorbs water from the ground and releases it into the air. And that added condensation is likely, now that's the key word here, likely one factor contributing to the hot, humid weather, according to Kenny Blumenfeld, senior climatologist for the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources. I just refer to him as a corn sweat terrorist.
Let me guess. If I had religiously attended the state fair, I probably would have learned about this a long time ago.
It's a very good point. You're exactly right. And is this the year?
No.
So how many years in a row have you boycotted the Great Minnesota Get-Together?
I think the last time I came was to visit you, and this was definitely pre-COVID. So I think we're close to, this could be the 10th year. It could be a big milestone.
That long?
I think it's about that, yeah.
Wow, that is, yeah. Well, we were kind of hoping this might be the breakthrough, but apparently, I'm
looking at my schedule as we talk, and I'm booked every single day.
Well, I think now for you, it's become a cause, sort of like the longer it goes on, the more likely you want to hold on to it, right? It's almost become
or it's like
a
you
bit.
Can't back down from your bit.
Yeah,
either.
That's it. That's exactly it. You're getting ripped. Virginia being on the ocean definitely doesn't have anything to do with humidity. Well, that's part of the point here, too. Don't bodies of water have something to do with humidity as well? Now, we don't have...
Virginia is a huge swampy area.
Yeah, right.
You know, not to go into a big history lesson, but when our forefathers settled Virginia, a lot of them died from malaria and other mosquito and swampy-based diseases.
Sure.
So let's not forget those people either.
All right, so today is kind of like media day, right, for the Vikings?
Yeah.
So you did not have to be out in the practice field. You did not have to deal with the corn sweat or any other kind of sweat as well. I've got several things I want to address with you today, and if what we don't get to today, I'm hoping we can get to with you, and we're out there on Thursday. There's been so much, and my guess is Thursday we'll talk more quarterback, because I know that's what you wrote about to sort of set the scene for camp. I want to ask you a KOC question because presumably with contract extensions, I mean, he and the general manager are both safe. There's no danger this upcoming season. But more generally speaking, how should we adjust our evaluation of the head coach when he is deploying a second year, but actually rookie in terms of experience, quarterback from the start of the season? They're handing him the keys. He is going to be the starter, because what people have logically say is you got to give the kid a minute, even if he's got good people around him. There's going to be some ups and downs. So does that mean we also temper whatever, tough criticism, or at least just, like I said, just analysis that we can go forward with regarding the head coach with this offense as well?
No, because I think while you do have to be realistic about what a first-year, starter can accomplish, you can also, that to me, that's where you might temper any criticism of the quarterback himself, because he's in such a different position than he's ever been in his entire life. The coach, I think, where he is, it's very much fair game, is what is he asking him to do?
Yeah.
And so, that's everybody talks about quarterback development and quarterback friendly systems, and what they spent a lot of time this spring and will continue this summer is testing what they feel confident sending JJ McCarthy out to do. And that is as much of a factor in how successful he is than whatever set of skills that he might have and is ready to display on the field right now in his first year as a starter. And so, I mean, you can just look at the guy who's behind him, Sam Howell, who was drafted from North Carolina by Washington, and they ran this unbelievably pass-heavy offense. I think they were behind a lot, but he threw it 600 plus times that year, and he threw a ton of interceptions, got sacked a ton, threw for a lot of yards, and it was like a clinic in how you would not want to ease someone you think is a potential long-term starter into the NFL. Go back and look at Sam Howell's numbers as when he was in Washington. I mean, it's just that was very sort of the opposite of what you would expect to happen here. And the Vikings have set themselves up from a personnel standpoint to be able to run the ball a lot, to be able to do a lot of quote unquote easy passes to running backs and tight ends and on the shorter side of things, and to not ask as much of J.J. McCarthy as they did of, say, Sam Darnold next year. And that's where the coach can be evaluated. If he's sending J.J. McCarthy out to throw it 30, 35 times a game, and we can all see that he's not quite ready to do that yet, but that's the way the offense is set up, then I think there's criticism to be had. I don't think he's going to do that. I keep telling people, if you're wanting J.J. McCarthy on your fantasy team, you might want to think twice about it, because I don't think, especially early in the season, they're going to be asking him to put up the kind of numbers that we have seen in this offense before.
That's, to me, is one of the most fascinating questions, because as you say, in terms of their rhetoric and even one could say a lot of their personnel moves, they've set themselves up to do precisely what you say. We're not going to almost guarantee early struggles and maybe even failure, even if we all know KOC loves to throw the ball. But can KOC stick to it? I mean, can he sort of overcome, I think, his own impulses, which still is, I like zinging the ball, man. And if he gets a couple of good throws going and then he feels encouraged about JJ, then he decides to completely go away from what, to me, as you say, seems early to be a very sensible plan.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say that that's going to be the case for 17 games. He would also open himself up to criticism if it appears as though J.J. McCarthy is a quarterback savant and is ready to be the type of quarterback we've more traditionally seen in this offense from a volume standpoint, and they hold him back for some artificial reason that you can't let a young quarterback do any more than what they're letting him do, then that would open it up as well. But I think it's not a lot of a chance that they would knowingly hold him back. But I think that if they see that there's some ability that's shining through and he's ready for more, I could see them adding layers to what they're asking him to do over the course of the season. I just don't think it's their plan right out of the gate, and nor should it be. All
right, let's get to a couple of injury updates, because these are fairly significant issues on how quickly several pretty foundational, important players, including Christian Darrisaw, are going to be available to practice regularly and then presumably be ready for the start of the season. Give us the list. Give us what the head coach has said. Give us what we think we know at this point in that regard, starting with Christian Darrisaw.
Yeah, so Christian Darrisaw, as everybody knows, tore his ACL and MCL last fall, about mid-season, and he did a little bit of individual stuff during OTAs and whatnot, and he's healthy enough that he will not be starting training camp on the PUP list, which is encouraging in itself, which means he's able to participate in practice. And so it sounds like they're just going to start him off slow. He'll just do the individual portion, the very beginning of practice when offensive linemen are warming up and doing their drills, and is not likely to jump into team drills anytime soon. And that's very good news. I don't know that it means that he's going to be ready for the start of the season. If he follows the same timetable with a similar injury that TJ Hawkinson did last year, then that would put him back sometime after week 1. But every injury is different, and it's certainly good news when someone doesn't have to be on the PUP. And that's the same for Will Fries, who is the right guard, who they signed from Indianapolis last year. He broke his leg in the middle of I think in October of last year, and was still kind of recovering from that this spring and didn't really do anything in the OTAs and mini camp. But he's been cleared for everything. So he's also not on the PUP list, and they'll start him off kind of slow, mostly from a conditioning standpoint to make sure, because he really hasn't done any football work at all since October, and then get him up to speed in their scheme. But there's nothing from a physical standpoint that's going to hold him back, according to Kevin O'Connell.
Are there any other injuries we need to cover before we get to a couple of contract questions?
No, they had a 6th-round pick, the tight end Gavin Bartholomew, who's had a lower back injury, and he's going to start the summer on PUP. So, but otherwise, it's a pretty significantly healthy team. Rondale Moore, who was a receiver, kind of a running back / receiver that they signed in free agency, he had a knee injury last year, missed the entire year, and he's been cleared as well. So that's good news for him.
Yeah, I mean, it is good news, is it not, that the name players you're talking about, none of them are starting it on the PUP, correct? That in itself is I think, positive, correct?
Right, and the PUP list sometimes teams use it just for a couple days, just to get them a little bit of extra time. But they're not even doing that with those guys. And so again, I don't want to start the celebration in the streets that Christian Darrisaw is going to start in Chicago in week 1. But when you think of the alternative of him not even being able to participate in practice, it's certainly good news.
All right, give us the update on the Josh Metellus contract situation.
Yeah, so he has a contract that voids after this year. There's been some talks, but they don't have a deal at this point. And he, as you know, he didn't do all of the stuff in OTAs. I think he was doing the 11-on-11 work, which was at half speed. The stuff that was at fuller speed was 7-on-7, and he sort of sat that out. And I think we all understood that was, I don't want to say a hold-in, but it was what many NFL players do when they're in this situation and they are looking to upgrade their contract. And so we asked today if, from a Viking standpoint, from Kevin O'Connell, Kwesi Dopa-Mensah's standpoint, are they anticipating him participating in all of training camp, or will this sort of, hold in, or whatever you want to call it, extend into camp? And Kwesi Dopa-Mensah said, from what he understood, he expects it to be full, but that they're having dialogue with the agent and continue to do that and navigate it. So it wasn't a full-throated, absolutely, we've talked, he's in a good spot, we're in a good spot, we're going to move forward. It wasn't quite that full-throated, so I think the situation, is probably a little fluid still, but Josh Metellus is at camp. He reported to camp today, so it's not like there's an actual holdout happening. And, he's one of the most liked players in the locker room. Coaches love him. Everybody in town loves him. And so there's certainly not any issue there. It's just a matter from a business standpoint, is there going to be something that they can do, or is he just going to, like Cam Bynum last year, play out the final year in his contract and then go into free agency next year?
Any other tantalizing, provocative, educational nuggets you gleaned from either the head coach or the general manager today?
No, we were kind of commenting it's sort of a boring situation. I know they did so much business and signed so many guys in the offseason, there really isn't much hanging over from either an injury standpoint or a contractual standpoint. We did ask about Jordan Addison, who, his case, he pleaded guilty last week to a lesser charge from his DUI citation from last summer. And so that case has now been adjudicated, and we're waiting to hear from the NFL. If the Vikings have any strong sense of what's going to happen, they were not revealing that today. But, the NFL policy is fairly straightforward, that when there's a driving and an alcohol-related incident, that the baseline suspension is 3 games, and then it can go, that can change based on the circumstances. But there's really not any reason right now to think that he won't get some form of suspension. I just don't know how many games it will be yet.
Kevin Seifert covers the Vikings in the National Football League for ESPN, joins us weekly, maybe even a couple times this week if we see him again. We're out there on Thursday. You passed along earlier this morning ESPN analytics regarding chance to win the National Football Conference North. And your analytics department puts the Lions at 39%, the Packers at 25%, the Vikings at 19%, and the Bears are not too distant, 17%. So leaving the nerds out, leaving the science out, does that sound right to you, or would you put the Vikings ahead of the Packers?
I think it could go either way. I think it's fair to not be giving the Vikings the benefit of the doubt until we see, the extent to which this quarterback can play, or he needs more time, or is going to be in for a struggle, or it's going to be smooth sailing, or, we can all give our best guesses about how that's going to go. But I think it's fair. And again, this would not be the way analytics work. There's a lot of, it's all numbers, but from a subjective point of view, I think it's more than fair to wait and see on the Vikings until you have an idea if the guy playing the most important position on the team is going to be competent or not.
A little roundup here. Let me ask you a couple things away from the Vikings, and I don't know that this is necessarily an area of specialty for you. But for the average rube trying to perhaps process some of the tantalizing stories that have been written, and even announcements regarding the National Football League Players Association and resignations and so forth. What do we make of what's going on there? Is this significant beyond moving some people around, or some people getting caught in some things, maybe some conflicts of interest? What should the average rube take out of all this?
I mean, I think it's important in this and something I'm kind of passionate about. But there's a long history in pro football, especially, of the owners just trampling the players on things like their health. If you know anything about the history of concussions, you would know. Everybody knows that. And even from the finances, the salary cap and the lack of guaranteed contracts is a significant departure from the way some other leagues work. And so a union is supposed to be protecting the labor force as best it can, to be looking out for them and doing everything they can to put them in the best possible position. And a lot of these stories that have come out, and the leaders who have since resigned, the stories at least imply that they were not always working in the best interests of the players. And in some cases, we're doing things, I don't want to say we're co-opted by the owners, but we're doing things that help the owners in terms of not fully revealing information that could help in negotiations for contracts. The way that some of them were spending money, lots of things that I know the instinct from fans is always, well, these are millionaires. Who cares? Like, if they get $1 million or $2 million a year, like, they're getting more. And I totally get that. But I also think that, like, football of all sports is one that really needs a strong union because of the physical nature of the game, the health issues that happen afterwards. And these guys are all contributing parts of their salaries for dues to go for that, to collectively protect one another. And it doesn't appear as though that's been happening. And so that's like, to me, it's more of like a moral thing than anything that's been going on. And I hope that this is a moment where they can really, level set and find a leader and find a vision that allows them to do the fundamental work of what they're there for, which is to protect the players and to put their interests, forward, because we know the owners are doing the same for them.
Lastly, for today, will you translate a Josh Metellus tweet that you reposted, I think, a day ago? Same people convincing us they got our best interest and that we should be paying money to the former players. I don't know what's going on, but we need people to stand up, not run. What's that all about? What's that refer to?
I think I'm not totally certain. It's something that I will venture to ask him when I can. But I think there's definitely a lot of players who are viewing all this as being a reaction to some media reports and to some other public discussions that's going on. And is the union reacting to these media? Did the people who resigned from the union react solely just because they were getting embarrassed by these reports? Because you don't want the internal decisions made based on public perception. And I think that's probably part of what Josh is saying there. You want the people that you're paying and have paid and selected to lead you to push back and lead. And so my guess is it was somewhere along those lines. But the question is, did those people deserve that chance, and were they capable of accomplishing what all the players wanted them to accomplish?
On that note, we'll look for you on Thursday. Good luck with the corn sweat, because I think it's supposed to stay very hot and very moist for the next several days. Maybe not Mankato moist. I feel like Mankato is always worse. Perhaps that's just me, because a lot of corn there, right? Speaking of corn sweat, isn't there a lot of corn around Mankato?
Well, I suppose. I mean, I didn't like look out the window when I was driving down, but I'll take your word for it that there was always a lot of corn down that way. And whether that had anything to do with the humidity or the fact that the sun isn't blocked by anything, because everything is just kind of a flat area with not a lot of trees, that could be part of it too.
Might be part of it as well. Thanks, man. As always, we'll chat on Thursday.
Okay, Dan.
Appreciate you. Kevin Seifert, ESPN.com. It has only just begun. We'll have all kinds of guests, including him, maybe some Ben Gessling on Thursday, definitely the head coach, Kevin O'Connell. We are negotiating as we speak with who this program will use on a weekly basis among the current Minnesota Vikings players. The question is whether anybody will want to come on with us, because every time a player comes on with us, they leave. They have to. They end up getting signed someplace else. So is there a bumper-to-bumper curse in that regard? I guess that must be taken under consideration. Let's pause. We'll get caught up. I'll give you the rest of our guest lineup. 2 outstanding guests yet to come, and much more on the Bumper to Bumper program.
Gatorade is the #1 proven electrolyte blend designed to hydrate better than water. So you can lose more sweat and raise your game. Gatorade, is it in you?
Man.
Join us for Fantasy Football Training Camp at Treasure Island Resort and Casino. Come hang out with Paul Charchian and the Fantasy Football crew Friday, August 15th in the Full Deck Ballroom from 6 to 9 p.m. Get all the info you need to dominate your league this year. Plus, all attendants will receive $10 in free slot play, $10 dining voucher. It's free to get in, too. Get full details, KFAN.com. Keep your calendar.
Ode to a Dead Guy is coming up at 5:30 tonight. John Bream, the esteemed, legendary local popular music critic of the Star Tribune, is scheduled for a 5:30 appearance in the wake of the news that Ozzy Osbourne has passed on at a much younger age, actually, than I thought he was. You could say, based on the way he lived his life, he was a lot older than I think he was. Will you double check? I think 76 or 77 when he died. But we'll get a great music critic's perspective on the heavy metal legacy. And not just that, the Ozzy Osbourne legacy beyond the music, because he had this whole second, maybe even third chapter, one could say. 76 years old. That's way too young. So that's scheduled for 5:30 this evening. I'm not going to lie to you. Because I think what we like to try to do is cover the waterfront on this show, but it's not. Heavy metal was never in my wheelhouse. And that doesn't mean that I'm ripping it. It just means I need help maybe from listeners. I need help from Bream to help me better understand music that I was obviously very aware of, grew up with, but did not necessarily gravitate towards, one could say. Ozzy Osbourne, gone at the age of 76 years old. In about 10 minutes, we're going to be joined by a longtime local television reporter, Caroline Lowe, who I think now is based in, I believe, last I checked, Santa Barbara, California. But she did great investigative work here for decades. And we just passed, I believe, the 30-year anniversary of the disappearance of a news anchor out of Iowa named Jody Huisentruit. And as part of that 30-year threshold, Hulu has a new documentary on the case. This is a case that has never been solved. The disappearance is ongoing. Leads, I guess, are continuing to be followed, etc. And Caroline Lowe knows this case as well as anybody and has been very much involved with the documentary, very much involved with other efforts to try to keep Jody's name alive. And she can sort of bring the story back for those who are unfamiliar with it, because it goes back a ways. And for the kids out there, they may not know much about this case. She is going to join us at the top of the hour of this program today. So right, a little after 4 o'clock, about 4:02. The corn sweat texts continue to pour in. And most people, well, I shouldn't say most, some people who've listened to this show for a while might know the secret. That half of the reason we've spent so much time on this is I just like saying corn sweat. These expressions that I'm not even sure I knew existed, then you hear me, I want to say that out loud a few times. Corn sweat, right? And that's half the battle on some days.
Why do you think I like saying Brian Asamoah?
That's it.
You know?
Yeah. It feels good,
yes.
Doesn't it? Dan, I'm laughing out loud at the corn sweat nonsense. Us country folk know corn sweat, which is usually a haze you see in the morning hours, mostly due to the corn in full pollination. We're not there yet. Give it another week or two. This is from 507 Guy. Dan, I believe I read a similar article on corn sweat last summer. However, in that story, they attributed the evaporation of the moisture from the corn as one of the reasons Midwest states that grow a lot of corn haven't seen record-shattering heat the last few years like other parts of the country. All that evaporation is a cooling process and actually helps keep our climate relatively in check. Well, now I'm completely confused. I don't even know what to believe at this point. The process of photosynthesis uses water, but also produces some water that releases into the air. If you and this meteorologist want to keep breathing, I would just learn to deal with the humidity, the dew point, etc. Over-subsidized corn makes resulting in overproduction, and unnecessarily cheap corn resulting in products like corn syrup becoming cheap alternatives. Remove or modify the subsidies in the name of healthier food, and guess what you get? Less corn sweat. In that case, everybody wins. Of course, that only works if the corn sweat ratio of alternative products, such as sugar beets, is lower. There's the rub. We're concentrating on the corn sweat, but what about the sugar beet sweat? We heard about, tall grasses, trees, bushes, etc. Dan, Seifert is my favorite of your guests for his refusal to bow to societal pressures and attend the Great Minnesota Get-Together. I proudly haven't been there in 20 years. And even that was 21-year-old me seeing about a girl. That's from Tom in Columbia Heights. Who'd have thought there'd be a lot of humidity in the land of 10,000 lakes? Are any of our lakes big enough to contribute to humidity? Like Lake Michigan is a significant lake that obviously affects Chicago weather all the time. We got 10,000 of them, but are any of our lakes big enough to do that? I need greater weather minds to answer that question. Peter Popsicle is wondering, what is the over-under for the number of times Dan says the word moist Thursday on location at Vikings training camp? I'll put it to you this way. It's higher than over-under on Vikings victories in 2025.
Wow.
According to the odds makers, it's much higher than that, that's for sure. It's real down here in southern Minnesota, writes Chuck out of Rochester. And then there was a Seifert rip in here too. Hold on if I can. Obviously, corn needs to be canceled. If you stand, is this true? If you stand in a field of corn, you can actually hear the sweat. I asked if you could see it on the corn. This texture is saying you don't have to worry about seeing it. You can have your eyes closed. You can hear it. Can you hear corn sweat? God, I love that. We're going to have to get a corn sweat expert on now. Now I'm starting to get really fascinated with the entire story. Don't forget to keep your pets hydrated, or reminded, which is a good callback as well. I think that everyone that gets corn at the fair should now feel guilty. It's a decent point. Please name the corn sweat Nami. Can't read that one. I'll leave that one alone. Until you've lived in Asia, this is from China Guy, you'll never know how bad it can be. 95 degrees temperature and 81 dew point. I didn't even know 81 dew point existed. Was what we called July in Xiamen, Xiamen, China. China Guy lived there for 12 years. 81 degrees dew point? Wouldn't that kill you? Seems like it would be very, very excessive. God, you get bugged, writes Neil, by the weirdest things. Not even bugged. I am curious as to what the point of the story is, other than if we're going to, eradicate the corn crop. I'm not exactly sure what this... I put this in the classification of I'm not even exactly sure what we do with this information. To that extent, I'd say why bother? Now, where's the Seifert rip? Dan, you should be so lucky you don't live in Virginia. This is Randy from Richmond, Virginia. We've been dealing with this for a long time, and usually I can handle it, but this year's been brutal. All of us mail carriers here have been dealing at one point of time with heat exhaustion, but the mail must be delivered, right? That's the job. I can't find the one that was ripping. There was one ripping Seifert. It's also important to remind people that even though the air feels heavy today, warm, moist air is actually lighter than cool, dry air. The air feels heavy because when you sweat, the sweat cannot evaporate from your skin. Sweating is your body's natural way of cooling itself. The drier the air, the easier it is for your body to cool off. That makes sense, doesn't it? That doesn't surprise you, does it? You seem kind of like you're non-committal.
Oh, I didn't know if that was
for you. No, that was for you.
No, that doesn't surprise me.
Beat a dead corn horse radio. We get it. It's hot. Seriously, Dan, are you saying that the corn that is growing in my fields happily today, is worse than the urban heat island where you reside? I'll take the crops. You can have the concrete and pavement. Good luck and good riddance. Top of the hour break. We'll come back and get into a fairly serious case that goes back 30 years in the upper Midwest with a person who knows it probably about as well as anybody. Caroline Lowe is...
Gatorade is the #1 proven electrolyte blend designed to hydrate better than water. So you can lose more sweat and raise your game. Gatorade, is it in you?